Om Shri Sai Ram. We will start the study cycle with 3 Omkarams. Sai Ram, everyone.
Hi, Ram.
Just to summarize what we discussed last week, Swami is telling that meditation is the path to synchronize ourselves with the will of God, where our will becomes God's will and God's will becomes ours. So that is a path, Swami says, and he says will actually is only applicable to God or to the Atman and not to us, because we do not have what's called free will. So I think we had a very lengthy discussion. There were many ideas shared. I will just summarize them as I understood, and there were some subsequent discussions. So I thought I would just summarize them. See, we have two concepts. One is will, other one is wish. And Swami in the paragraph which we read, he says we generally tend to confuse our wish with will. I think one of the fundamental problems we have to understanding what is will is we think that will is a thought, but it is not so. Because if you look at Atman, Atman is not using mind. Thoughts belong to mind, but Swami says Atman has what's called will. In an earlier paragraph, I think Swami also is talking about nature having will. So in this world, everything which is naturally created in this world actually is only using what is will, which is basically they are in line with how the nature has to function according to the divine will. There the thoughts do not come into play. Whereas in the case of human beings, because we are used to having thoughts and wishes which come out of these thoughts or desires or expectations, we tend to think that is will. Wanting that wish to somehow fructify or happen, we think is will. And Swami says that is not so. Because in reality, thoughts or wishes are actually hurdles in the path of how will naturally blossom in this world. So that's, in a nutshell, the summary of what we all discussed as per my understanding. So I thought I will just mention this. I will just open it up to the audience and the participants. If anyone would like to share anything, share. Else we will proceed with the study. Sai. So I guess Swami is discussing this slightly further. So I think we will proceed, Sister Kalyani and Sister Narmada, if you want. Thank you.
This is what we read last time. Should I go to the next one?
You can just read this and then go to the next one, just so that Thank you.
So should I start with wish versus will then? This portion,
Okay.
right? Some people use wish and will as if there was no difference between the two. This is very wrong. The wish is related to the tendencies, vasanas, embedded in the mind, manas. The will is related to the fundamental character of Atma. Wish means the craving to get something. Will is the determination to acquire it. Both wish and will are based on the moral culture of the individual. Once the Atma is cultivated, they can, they can be sublimated accordingly. But if they are cultivated without the Atmic point of view, the faults and failings of the mind will get mixed up with that is wished for and willed for.
Thank you, sister. I think let me pause a bit, because I think there was another question asked about cultivation of Atma. Someone said, we already have Atman. Why it should be cultivated? I think the word which is used may be a bit um, not bringing out the meaning, I think, clearly. From what I understand, Atman is present in every one of us. But to get access to that, there's a process which we have to go through. Usually, Swami uses similar some analogies to explain this. Like there is ghee, or ghee or fat in milk. It is present everywhere, but if you want to access that, there's a process. You have to make curds, and then you have to curdle it. Then you get what's called butter. Then you have to melt the butter, and then you get ghee. So there's a process to be able to access anything. Even in this world, there is water table under the surface. It's everywhere. But to access it, we had to drill a hole and make a connection. So it is, when the Atma is cultivated, we should be able to cultivate our external characteristics of mind and so on, so that the Atman can shine forth from within us outwardly. This is my understanding. I thought I would just mention. I think there was a question about it. Yes, Atma is present in everyone in this world, everything in this world, but it has to be, we have to have a process to bring it out. And so that all of our actions, thoughts are suffused with the thought of Atma. So that's my understanding. I thought I think it may have been briefly discussed, but there was a question, so I thought I will address that as well. Saira, you can proceed to the next slide. Saira.
Take it step by step. The lower step can be seen from the higher step, not the higher step from the lower. So, one should strive to go step by step higher and higher. In other words, from the culture of the Atma to the culture of the will, and thence to the culture of the moral conduct. Then the enjoyment of the bliss of the Atma becomes quite easy and natural. When the baby is unable to walk, the mother encourages it to toddle a few steps at a time at home before it is allowed to go on the road. Instead, if it is put on a high road first, how can it learn? Besides, what of the danger of the road? So also for first the internal factors have to be strengthened, and then external factors. Like moral conduct becomes easy. Morals without the basis of internal uplift will not be deep seated. So the cultivation of the attitude of the Atma is primary. The aim of spiritual practice is to remove the motive, the wish, the attachment, and yearning for the fruit. Understanding this clearly, the spiritual aspirant must not give way to any dispiritedness, despondency, or feeling of failure or doubt. The aspirant must be patient and bear things with fortitude. Therefore, the aspirant must develop within themselves enthusiasm, faith, activity, and joy, keeping the great big results of effort constantly in view. The aspirant must boldly discard all difficulties and temptations. Since the latter are but short lived and weak, with a little patience they can be overcome with ease. If the aspirant is not vigilant and patient, all already achieved success will melt away in an unguarded moment.
Thank you very much, sister. I think there's quite a bit in these 3 paragraphs. I think we will start with the first one. Maybe the first 2 paragraphs we will discuss first, and then we will go to the third one. See, Swami is talking about the steps in a ladder. He says, from the highest step, you can always look at the step below, but from below, you cannot see what is above. And then Swami is equating these steps to 3 things: culture of the Atman, culture of the will, and then culture of moral conduct. Then, so that is the order in which Swami wants us to cultivate it. The importance. Then Swami goes on to say, when the baby is unable to walk, what the mother does. And he says, first the internal factors have to be strengthened. Then the external factors like moral conduct become easy. The morals without base of internal uplift will not be deep-seated. So Swami says the cultivation of the attitude of Atma is primary. So I think it's a very, very important thing, because many people say, you have to, even things like speak the truth, cultivate right conduct. So from what Swami says, it's not easy. It is not easy at all, because you can slip and fall at any point in time. So he says you have to go back to Atma. First, you have to work on establishing the Atman within you. With that, you will develop what's called the culture of the will. You accept everything in this world, and then moral conduct becomes easy. Okay, so that is the order in which Swami has spelled it out for us, because he gives a lot of importance to faith in God for everything in life. Without that, you cannot achieve anything. So I will pause here, and I will open it up for a discussion by all the participants.
Sorry, Ram. Uncle, I know you just explained it, but can you just explain again what is meant by culture of the will?
Okay, so so anyone else who would like to come in, maybe I will just go first, but then others, please compliment, or you can say whatever you feel. See, the way I understand is culture. First, cultivating Atma means you need to cultivate love for God in you first, so that you have a connection to God. Then comes the culture of will. Culture of will means once you have that, then see, all of us may say we have faith in God. Then we have to cultivate our will. What it basically means is we should cut down our thoughts and our wishes and let the will of God function, which in other words is called surrender, or accepting everything in life as the will of God. That takes a lot of effort. Once we get to that point, then external moral things will naturally become easy, because then we will, because usually most of the problems with morality itself, when our wish or our desires are not fulfilled, things don't happen the way we want them to, or things don't happen the way we expect them to, then the immoral tendencies of human beings crop up. So this is my understanding, so I will stop here. Others can share your thoughts, please. Saira.
Sairam, when I look at exactly what Brother Arunu mentioned about these three, culture of the Atma, culture of the will, and the culture of the moral conduct, up until now, I thought we always do in a reversal way. The Swami's teaching, I believe that the moral conduct, the 5 human values, the truth, love, peace, non-violence, right conduct. And then we go and all the way to the end, we thought we will realize the self, that is the Atma in it, or the divine within ourselves. But when I look at this order, it comes to the culture of the Atma first, then culture of the will, the surrendering everything in the faith of God, and then the moral conduct. So in our SSC teaching or Swami's teaching, we focus on the 5 human values and other things first in order to realize divine within ourselves. So does it go in the reverse order, or is it in the right way? Maybe my understanding, it could be different from other brothers and sisters, but I just thought about this one. Maybe in practical point, we go in the reverse order. That's why I want to, maybe the other brothers and sisters, they may have different point of view, so that they may explain me how this order goes in there.
Sairam sister, very well stated. We will open it up for others to contribute their thoughts as well. Say.
Okay, thank you, Sairam.
Sairam, brother, you already explained this one. Even I was supporting Anandi when I read it. Then I tried to understand, to put it in the Baba's order, and I got it something at least. But when you explained, I got it fully. So you said the cultivation of Atma is developing love to God. So without developing a love, devotion to God, these 5 values are going to work. Not going to work. They are not rooted. It's not going to be deep rooted or deep seated. So the essential thing is to devotion to Atma or God, and that is the culture of the Atma. Then as you live example for the will of God. So whatever has happened to you, you accept without demon as God's will. That's a difficult part that we people find it to achieve. Then, of course, when there is devotion to God, and when you accept all whatever happened to you as God's grace or God's will, only then we have outward conduct, moral conduct, speaking softly, not to harm anybody, speaking the truth, work for others, all those of external conduct comes out of the moral culture of the Atma. So I am just put it in different words what Brother Arno said earlier. Thank you, Sairam.
Sairam, brother. What I understand from the first paragraph is from the culture of Atma. So once you think that you are Atma, then you will leave it to God. It's according, everything happens with His will. So in order to get the bliss of Atma only, these orders, this goes with from the Atma, from the culture of Atma, then you will, once you realize it's the Atma within you, then you will allow the God to make all the things, and you will accept as it is. Whatever it comes in your way, you will think that is the God will. Once that level comes, then your moral conduct, how you conduct on that basis, will be changed. Then obviously you will enjoy the Atma. That's my understanding on this. Thank you, Sairam.
Thank you.
And my understanding is, and I think I understood much better when Sivadas uncle and Aruna Anna mentioned. We say, understand cultivating Atma is, I believe, as a love for God, which then leads to surrender to God. So And then the will is, I believe, is, as they mentioned, accepting everything that happens because you have surrendered to God. It's basically it's His will or God's will, and when you surrender, also you understand Atma within you, or you're part of Atma or God. And then the moral conduct is then your actions become selfless, because I believe when you surrender to God, you lose the I, the ego. So, and when you accept all the actions or all what that happens around you or to you in your life as His will, and then you don't have that selflessness because you accept it as His will, and then any actions that you do or your behavior or how you do is also selflessness. When you have that selflessness, I believe mostly your moral conduct or will be right way. That's my understanding. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sister. Anyone else would like to share your thoughts, please?
So, Sairam, brother. So, that if we take the Atma, is reality is covered with ego, uh, uh, ego and karma and Maya. So we have to come out from that one. So in order to come out from that one, we're supposed to have faith and devotion. With the faith and devotion, we need to get the connection from the God. So we can say we have love with the God, but whether God is loving you or not, you have to ask the question, how the God is going to love you. So with your whatever we studied, whenever we put that in practice, then you'll get the God grace and love. Once you get the God grace and love, then you will be reached to the God will. That is my understanding. Thank you.
Thank you very much, brother. Thank you very much. Anyone else would like to share any thoughts, please?
Anna, I have a question. I just yes, I can understand you guys saying that we need to surrender the God, and then you follow the steps. But how you when you surrender, then when you say you're saying love the God, and then you will move up the ladder. But how you do you know, or how do you do experience that you've been loved or you're loved back?
So I can give another example, I think, which hopefully everyone is familiar. For example, you like someone. Okay, you don't know whether that person likes you. So then you say, I love you. You know, at least in your own heart, you say, I love this person. Now, what you're going to see is whether you have to make that person love you. So you start from the point of developing a love towards the person. So then what happens? That person demands this, so that you want to do something with that person. That person says, this is the way I want you to be done. You will surrender to that person. You will let that person do whatever they want. Why you do that? Because you want that person to love. Once you are fully surrendered, if that person says, this is what I like, then you will say, okay, I will go along. That is surrender. Then what happens? Once you have surrendered, then you don't even exist. Only that person exists. Then what happens? You do things according to that person's wish. Then of course, naturally, that person will develop love for you. This is just normal human experience for all of us. But unfortunately, we are unable to apply the same technique with God. Very, very simple. So if you want, as Brother Das nicely explained, first we start with I love God. Then the point we end is God loves us. When God loves us, we and God become one. Then only the cycle is fully complete. So actually we have the knowledge of, we practice it actually in day-to-day life. Of course, we all know how difficult it can be if we don't surrender to someone we like. Then all the conflict happens. So when we because we want to be loved by somebody, we are willing to do the same approach, same technique we should do with God also. Then not all, when we do with God, actually the entire world benefits because you don't harm the world at all, because God doesn't want anything selfish. Whereas in an individual human person, if you go with that person's wish, you may cause harm to something else, somebody else. But in the case of God, one will be totally moral in this world. But unfortunately, we will say, don't do this, only then God will. Yes, which is true. If you don't, speak the truth, if you don't treat other people right, if you don't harm anyone, God will be happy. But how do we achieve that? Again, we have to go back to this process of starting by developing connection, if you want to put it, at least a connection, our own love for God. So this is my understanding. So I will again open it up. I hope I sort of explained with a practical an example of human behavior. I will just open it up for discussion. So actually, the same thing. It's just common sense. Swami is nicely explaining to us. So devotion to God is essential, or the connection with God, cultivating. Okay, Sahira.
Sairam, just a follow-up. In the very first sentence, Swami said, the lowest step can be seen from the highest step, not the highest step from the lower. In this particular order, the highest step is the culture of Atma. The lowest step is the moral conduct. Is in this in the first paragraph. The lowest step is the moral conduct. The highest step is the culture of Atma. Is that the order? If we take the lowest step, in my understanding, I thought the lowest step is the moral conduct. The highest step is the culture of the Atma. So Swami says, if we go in the highest step, from the highest step, we can see the lowest step, but from the lowest step, we cannot see the highest step. So in this order, which is the lowest step, which is the highest step? I thought the highest step is the culture of the Atma, the lowest step is the moral conduct, or?
Okay. Okay, sister, I will open it up for discussion, but maybe I will just comment on it. So from what I can see, normally people will say we have to start from the lowest step. Only then we can climb up. If I think so that is the challenge, because I started saying the highest step is Atman, then comes the step of culture of the will, then comes the moral step. Then the challenge is, then people will say, then the Atma step is the first step. Okay, that's normally we would say. But from what I understand, what Swami is telling is, even though morality is the lowest step, which everyone has to climb, even to climb that, we need to have some Atmic culture. Okay, so that is my understanding, because the Atma culture is at a higher level. Okay, but at least we should have some connection. Is that my understanding? But I will open it up for others to discuss. I don't know whether Maniyan.
Saira, that our Atma is coming through that several births, that tendency and that vasanas. We had to get rid of that vasanas and tendencies, that we had to get our Lord's help. That's why we take that God's name, Namasmarana, and that God's Namasmarana. I can say that help of the Namasmarana, we can go climb the ladder. On the way, we get a lot of disturbance. That's it's all coming from the God. We can accept that this is all coming from the God. That then we reach that end, that uplift that Atma until the level of that mind. We can find the Atma ourselves, that because it's covered with the tendencies. No, so after that, when we reach the level that moral qualities that comes itself, no, that I think that we don't have to worry about it. It will come itself to come to creatures. I guess. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Saira, here the brother explained, and I will read that sentence here. In the second paragraph, last two sentences. Morals without the basis of internal uplift will not be deep-seated. So the cultivation of the attitude of the Atma is primary. So actually the order is correct. Atma is first, culture of Atma is first, next and next. That order is correct. So what Bhagawan is saying is that it will not be deep-seated. Now, without the culture of the Atma, that means we discussed already, no? So we may be practicing 5 values and other conduct, but even here is coming in the next paragraph, I think. In an unguarded moment, we might commit a blunder, even though we are practicing 5 values and other moral conduct. Why we are failing? Even I am a good person. Everybody says he is a good person. Everything is nice and good. But nobody knows. I might secretly do a very bad thing because my Atma was not cultured, was not cultivated. So I will stop with this. I seconding that what brother was explaining. Thank you, Saira.
Sairam, I just wanted to try also here in regards to the lower step can be seen from the highest step. Here, according to this sentence, the highest step is Atmic bliss, and the lower steps thereafter is our moral conduct, then the will, then the Atma. So from Atmic bliss, you can see the Atma. That's the way that order has been, I think, in the first paragraph, say, from the culture of Atma to the culture of will, then moral conduct. Then you can experience the will, the bliss. So I think the bliss is the highest step. That's the way I look at it, this one. Thank you, Sarah.
So, Sairam brother, we can put it this way. If you are climbing on a steps, from down, you cannot see the top. But from top, you can see all the steps below. Then put it according to that, you will get the answer.
Yeah,
so from the top step, you will see all the steps down. But from down, you cannot look at up, nothing.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you.
Sairam, I wonder if this could be similar to what we talked about previously about Vairagya and how it's both the prerequisite and also the end result. Similarly, could it be the case for moral conduct? So we need some basic level of moral conduct in order to cultivate that the culture of the Atma, that love for God. So if I'm someone who's stealing and lying and cheating all the time, it would probably be pretty impossible for me to develop that love for God. So I think maybe in terms of as a prerequisite, you probably need some basic level of moral conduct, but then it's sort of also here, it's saying that it's also the highest step. So maybe once we develop the culture of the Atma, the culture of the will, then we get to the final highest step, the culture of moral conduct. And at that level, maybe it becomes, moral conduct becomes much easier, and we're very easily able to see what's the right and wrong choice, because at my stage currently, sometimes you encounter situations that are like ethical dilemmas, and it's not so clear what's right and wrong, and you may have to pray or just hope that you're doing the right thing. But maybe when you come to that higher stage, it all becomes very easy to see what's right and wrong.
Thank you very much, sister. I will just, I think it's, what you're saying is right. I think that at some level, some moral conduct is needed even to develop love for God. Because many people, how do the people generally develop love for God? I think that itself we can see. Generally, if we go around the world, ask anyone, they will say we are good, and people will also say we love God. But generally, that love is, as we discussed earlier, it's anurakti. It's we want God for our own personal benefit, but through that process, at least for just to get something, we behave properly, and then through that process, we sort of get attached to God. And yeah, at some level, that we have to develop love for God, and sometimes it is a process of developing morality. But Swami says, that may not be deep-seated. That's what Swami is telling here. That's my understanding, but I will open it up for discussion. Just to see, there's one thing which Swami has again and again emphasized. The purpose of the Sri Sathya Sai organization, according to Swami, is to propagate the love for God. Whichever form of God you choose, you need to learn to love. So fundamentally, that's what Swami has always pushed for. One of the things which Swami always says is, if a mother wants to train a child, you can only train a child through making them love you. Without them developing a love, either the parent or a teacher, they will not be able to inculcate the right conduct in a child. And I think it applies to anything, even animal. They will not do unless they develop some form of a linkage, connection to whoever is working with. So that's my understanding. So even though we can say initially at earlier level itself, people have to cultivate moral conduct, it's much more achievable through connection with the person who is trying to instill that. That's my understanding, but I will open it up for anyone. Can share your thoughts, please. Saira.
Saira, usually, not all the time, we start somewhere to love the Lord, love God, no? So then fear of God comes. Then we say, we should not do this. We should not do this sin. This is sinful. So always by birth, from the childhood, we first have some fear of God, and from the fear of God comes all moral conduct. So, actually, the brother said the love of God. He started the Atma culture. Here it is. We are not going to Atmic realization. No, here saying that here the words are again coming here as also first the internal factors have to be strengthened. Then external factors like moral conduct become easy. So whatever the heart must be purified, all the propensities must be removed. So the internal faculties should be made pure in order to reflect the outward activities wholly, something like that. But Sister Kalyani's view is one way, it is correct. But the thing is like that. It is left to us. Left to us. Some people might start practicing good conduct and start love God and culture, Atma culture. We cannot say all start from devotion to this one. But naturally, generally in God-believing families, God fear comes first. Then comes sins and other things.
Sairam, maybe I also little confused in the originally. Now I am much more clearer. From the culture of the Atma, I thought it's really a self-realization, not necessarily.
Yeah.
It could be any kind of, just now after Brother Sivadas mentioned, I thought it's not really a self-realization. It could be in the process, you just have the faith in Atma, or it could be anything. And also now I understand Swami would have looked at in the practical point of view. If you have the love of God or fear of God, and if you surrender everything, then the application of the application part, it will be really, really easy. That's the one Sister Kalyani indicated. The application is very, very important in that world. Just to realize the Atma or the surrender, it wouldn't if you don't really apply if you don't practice in the application point of view. Maybe now I understand what it's really meant by Swami in that particular sentence. Thank you, Sairam. All really put some input for me to understand that line. Thank you, Sairam.
Sairam. Sairam, Saku auntie.
Yeah.
Can
yes,
you hear me?
Yes. Please go ahead.
Okay. In the second paragraph, when you read, Baba says internal factors have to be strong, strengthened.
Yeah.
That's like having the foundation strong. Otherwise, the outside moral conduct, everything will collapse.
Yeah.
So the basic has to be strong. Unless you love God or love a person, you will not try to correct you won't try to please anyone.
Yeah.
That's what Baba, as in the second paragraph, it says the internal factors have to be strengthened. And then the external factors like moral conduct become easy. And if that is not done, then the moral, everything will collapse. That's what Baba says. Thank you, Saira.
Thank you, Auntie. Thank you. Okay, so sir, can we go to the next, the third paragraph and discuss? I think Sister Narmada, can you read the third paragraph again once, I guess, so that...
Yeah. The aim of spiritual practice is to remove the motive, the wish, the attachment, the yearning for the fruit. Understanding is clearly the spiritual aspirant must not give way to any dispiritedness, despondency, or feeling of failure or doubt. The aspirant must be patient and bear things with fortitude. Therefore, the aspirant must develop within themselves enthusiasm, faith, activity, and joy, keeping the great big result of effort constantly in view. The aspirant must boldly discard all difficulties and temptations. Since the latter are short-lived and weak, with a little patience, they can be overcome with ease. If the aspirant is not vigilant and patient, all already achieved success will melt away in an unguarded moment.
Thank you very much. So as we can see, Swami is warning us of potential, pitfalls, hurdles, which actually trip us, and our progress stops and we give up. And so he's identifying what generally goes wrong with everyone in this world. He says when you have motives, wishes, attachment, or yearning for something, that becomes the problem in the path of spirituality. Because what happens is that overtakes everything. And this person who is practicing spirituality will give up prematurely and lose everything which they have gained through, because of one desire, one something, some thought, which takes us away from everything. And he says, anything which bad happens, understand that they don't last forever. So just be patient, it will go away and then you will reach your goal. But I think people are generally find it difficult to be patient. They want everything right away, and because of that, negative emotions, all that crop up, and sadhana doesn't proceed well. I will stop here. I will open it up for discussion. Participants can share any thoughts or questions, please.
So, Sairam, brother, for the devotion, the important point, whatever mentioned here, faith and patience. The patience is a saburi. Some people call saburi. If you don't have that patience, you are not going to reach the level, because anytime you can give away whatever you gone through that so many years, or maybe it can be reached in 1 month, it can be 5 years or 10 years, or maybe next life. But you do your part. The God will take care of the rest of the things. Thank you, Sairam.
Sairam, brother. Thank you. Anyone else would like to share your thoughts, please?
Maybe just a clarification. I guess I'm assuming Swami is referring to different things in these two sentences, but it sounds sort of similar. So if you could clarify. In the first sentence, Swami says, we have to remove the yearning for the fruit. And then later on, halfway down, Swami says that we should keep the great big result of effort constantly in view. So it seems like keeping the great big result of effort, that seems like, isn't that kind of like the fruit?
Okay, good question, sister. I will ask others to share their thoughts, please.
Yes, actually it looks contradictory. Usually because even Bhagavad Gita, people saying, oh, do not expect fruits thereof. You have the right to work, not to expect the fruits thereof. This is the famous, everybody quoting Gita. But the actual reality is, we can desire for the atmic consummation, the final liberation. The mumuksutva means we should strive for liberation, because finding the truth, we finding the truth and getting away from the cycle of birth and death, suffering. So, and not only that, on the path of realizing, we will be able to feel immense atmic bliss, which is good for the society and good for me and everything. So the worldly desires must be given up. We should not have any worldly desires in the mind when we do when we do the spiritual sadhana. But so when we progress, there might come some obstacle to stop me, like Satan coming, like that. So we must keep our aim in view. Oh, I must get out of this turmoil and I must enjoy my birthright. I don't want to be in the dream no more. Let me realize myself. So that aim should be there all the time. Keeping that great reward at the end, we have to discard all the temptation in the middle. So that is what here it is meant, I believe. Thank you, Sairam.
I think I'm just trying for Kalyani's question. In regards to the yearning for fruit, that once you that's the result, okay, for some kind of sadhana. So keeping that, you have to keep the result in your mind all the time. When there is any kind of difficulties comes also, you have to think about that in order to be bold on to disregard your difficulties. That's how I look at that fruit, how to view. Just keep that in mind to face the difficulties. That's my understanding on that. Thank you, Saira.
Thank you very much. Anyone else would like to share your thoughts, please?
Sairam, we can put effort for the fruit that we can say that journey must be there, but not for the fruit, but the aim should be there that whatever we do, that sadhana should go to that end. No? That journey must be there. That forget about the fruit. No, that's what I am thinking. That's right.
Anyone else would like to share your thoughts, please? Okay,
I also think that the very first sentence clearly says the aim of the spiritual practice is to remove the yearning for the fruit. I also agree. Maybe already Brother Siddha said here, it's kind of contradicting, but maybe the content may be contradicting, but the intent of this paragraph is not that contradicting. But if you just look at the literal meaning, just the content of the words, maybe it seems to be contradicting. But when I look at the whole paragraph, intent, it's not that contradicting. Maybe I don't know how to explain that with examples, but the intent is not contradicting, but the content, when we look at look at only the word by word, it seems to be like contradicting, but it's not really in my point of view. Thank you, Sairam.
Sairam, sister. Auntie, I don't know whether Mani Auntie is in a position to read. So in Telugu, Swami is very, very clear. So Mani Auntie, are you able to?
Yeah, 1 minute.
Sorry, Auntie.
No problem. No problem.
Page 99, Auntie. Korikalu Vasanalu Lekunda Chesukoni.
Yeah. కోరికలు వాసనలు లేకుండా చేసుకొనిన వృత్తులు వాటంతటవే అణిగిపోవును. వాసనారహితులు కావలనన్న సాధనయందు ఓర్పు పట్టుదల కలిగి ఉండవలను.
Okay,
కష్టం. That's it.
Yeah, you can explain. So, Auntie, just you can translate it, Auntie.
కోరికలు వాసనలు లేకుండా చేసుకున్న వృత్తులు వాటంతవే అణిగిపోవును. Even though your aim is, your vasanas and your wishes may not be there, when such a situation comes, all your thoughts will be vatantake anigi povunu. It will. No, I'm not able to clearly say that.
Okay, korikalu vasanalu means, korika means wishes, vasana
Vasanalu
means
is
tendencies.
tendencies.
Lekunda chesukonina. If you remove them, yeah, if you can remove them.
Yeah, remove those vasanas and the wishes.
Wishes. Vrittulu vatantare anigipoyina. All your tender, the vrittulu means
manovritti, the thoughts.
Yeah, thoughts will completely disappear.
Yeah.
And then Swami says,
Vasana rahitulu kavalananna sadhana endu orpu pattudala. You have to be very patient, should show fortitude, bear things, whatever comes. Kashtamugano, niratsahamugano, vicharamugano, nundina, dhyana yoga sadhanalu, yedo tappu undi undavalanu. ఓర్పు తక్కువగా నుండును. ఈ రెండు కారణములే కాక వేరు కారణము లేదు. There must be the deficiency of your patience, or there must be something missing in your dhyana yoga sadhana. These are the two reasons for your discouragement or nirutsahamu, all those things, he says. What is it called here?
Okay, so just to clarify to others,
okay,
in the translation there are some, there's a bit of confusion, but what Swami says is we should give up our wishes and we should give up our tendencies.
Yeah.
Through that, our mind will become under control.
Clear.
For that, Swami says we should patiently persevere in our sadhana.
Perseverance is important, yeah. And don't give way to your discouragement or despondency, saying that you are not getting whatever you want to achieve.
And then Swami gives two reasons why we may not have anything. That is because progress in the spiritual path. That is, Swami says you are not doing the dhyana properly.
Yeah.
Okay, that can be one. Otherwise, you are giving way to despondency or dispiritedness.
And you have no fortitude. Orpu means fortitude. Forbearance is not there.
Thank you very much, Auntie. So you should be able to bear everything. So I hope that clarifies, I don't know, Sister Kalyani's question.
Sairam, yes, that clarifies it. So Swami doesn't talk about keeping the result of effort constantly in view.
Yes, no.
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't. Sometimes, in the translators, they add their own ideas into it. So that's why, okay. So as you can see, when people have added, there's confusion right away coming through. If we read what Swami has said, it's very, very clear.
Hello.
Yes, Auntie.
In the Bhagavad Gita Vakyam, Karmanyevadikaraste Mahapaleshu Kadachana, in that sloka, what Swami is saying, your effort should not be given up. The motive for your effort should not be there. Motive, the ma karma pala heteshu, your motive for the fruit should not be there, but your effort should continue. That is here, of course, what Kalyani was saying, that keeping the great big result of effort constantly in view, the aspirant must boldly discard all difficulties and temptations. That sentence is little confusing. But actually, what Swami is saying, that your effort, your sadhana should go on without the motive for the fruit. Some people do actions just for the sake of the fruit. That should not be there. Swami, what he is saying is.
Thank you, Sairam. That is worldly fruit.
Worldly fruit.
Yeah, not worldly fruit. So worldly fruit should not be there.
Should not be the motivator for your actions.
Yeah, spiritual sadhana. But when we do a certain thing, we have an aim. That is self-realization. That's the aim. So finding the truth rather than self-realization, finding the truth. So finding the truth, everybody has the right. It is a birthright. So that should be in our aim. So the worldly ambition, worldly desires through meditation, that should not be there. Thank you, Saira.
So, Sairam, brother, so my understanding is here that fruit of the yearning, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna said, you can do the work, but you should not expect the fruit of the action. So same thing is spiritual too. If you want to do the dhyana, you have the devotion, you have the faith, continue with that one. So whatever, because you are not supposed to have any thought of the fruit of the action. Thank you, Sairam.
Sairam, that's right. Sometimes Swami say the story that experience that sometimes Swami take the students by hand and walking outside. So after say come back and we asking the other boys and saying that you also like to go with Swami's hand, go out with holding Swami's hand out. Swami say after Swami says that holding Swami's hand is not important, but yearning to hold the hand is very important. Swami says that we can yearn that aim, but not aim for the food. That is the meaning. I guess.
Yes, Saira. What fruit can we expect in the meditation? So yearning itself is a fruit.
Yeah,
so yearning must be there, means you have an aim.
Yeah, so the yearning is aim. Yeah.
Yeah. So the yearning is the aim. Yeah. So that is what we have to understand the whole thing in a proper manner. No? So so you have birthright to realize your innate divinity. Your innate divinity, you have to realize it. Work for it.
That's true. Yeah. But Tamil that's
a worldly aspect, no? For the worldly aspect.
It is anything that you can
worldly or spiritually, but the final your anything in between. So through meditation, I will get power. Some people might achieve some power through meditation. That cannot be there. It shouldn't be there. This is only for finding the truth of yourself.
Yeah. That if he said sometimes that aiming for the fruit, no, sometimes it's failure. Sometimes they cannot bear up. No, there's the problem there. There's also. Yes. Sometimes if you make any mistake, it's all come down. Everything slash down. No, that's the problem. It's not easy. So thank you,
sir. Sairam, in this very last sentence, Swami indicated that aspirant must have two important things. One is vigilant, one is patient. Is there any examples for vigilant? We all know we should be having the patient with so many examples here. The how patient we should be in order to achieve the higher level or the aimed level. But for vigilant, is there any short and crisp example for vigilant?
Temptations. Yeah. Temptations and difficulties are the examples which you can give for. You have to be very vigilant, We can succumb to our temptations anytime. Anytime I may feel that I will give up that dhyana and then I will go. So that temptation should not be there. That's what I understand.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Sister Manian. Yeah.
I will tell a story which Swami has told about the mind. And we have to be vigilant about our mind. Nothing else in this world. And then Swami gives the story how devious the mind can be. He says, from a worldly point of view also it's devious. Even in the spiritual world also it is devious. So Swami gives a nice, very humorous story. He says there's one party, there one wedding party. Okay, the bridegroom's party went to the village of the bride to get the wedding celebrated. So when the bridegroom's party went to the village of the bride, suddenly some individual shows up to the bride's house and behaves as if he has come from the bride's side. And he demands this, that you should do this, you should do that, and he scolds them, and they think they are worried. This is some bride's party, some big shot. So they, give him lot of importance and look after him. Then the same individual goes to the bride's home and behaves as if he has come from the bridegroom's house and demands things there also. So he was creating a ruckus on both sides, and one day both the parties decided this doesn't seem right. So they tried to go and consult each other. There's some person coming from your house. Who is that? And apparently this person vanished. So what Swami says is the mind, is the culprit. When you're trying to overcome the mind, then suddenly he puts on the robe of, I am the most, spiritual person, and the mind will start giving us guidance. Do this, do that. The problem is we have to be vigilant with our mind, even when we are doing sadhana, because it will spring a surprise and make us slip. That's why I think Swami has already told, remove all the wishes. See, even in spirituality, if you have a wish, I should attain this. That is the mind at work there. And Swami says, push the mind out. If we are impatient about anything, we are unable to be patient, that's because of mind coming and saying, why is it not happening? Why is it not happening? And it disturbs our sadhana. So I think we have to be vigilant about our own mind playing tricks on us. So sorry, I took too long, but I thought it's a story. How sometimes mind behaves as if it is your spiritual companion, and which is a dangerous thing. Sairam.
Sairam, brother, could you please dwell on this line? Keeping the great big result of effort constantly in view, the aspirant must boldly discard all difficulties and temptations. Could you please explain this?
Brother, already Mani Aunty read the Telugu version. In the Telugu version, Swami basically saying, Kashtamuganu, Nirutsaha Mugano, Vichara Munago, Mugano, Nundina, Dhyana Yoga Sadhanalalo, Edo Tappu Undi Balanu. Sari, Aunty?
Correct.
Okay, Swami says, Swami is not talking about keeping it in view and all that, brother.
Yeah.
Swami is saying if there are problems or lack of enthusiasm, then there's a problem with your dhyana
yoga.
Sadhana. Dhyana yoga.
And secondly, there is no patience. Orpu takkuvaga undunu. See, ee rendu karanamule kaka.
So Swami is not talking about keeping it in view and all, brother.
So since the latter are but short-lived and weak, with a little patience, they can be overcome with ease. That's also you covered.
So they are what Swami.
Sairam, I also have the same question as Brother Sivadas. Keeping the great big result of effort constantly in view, what my understanding from the start of the paragraph here, the aim of the spiritual practice is to remove, but you will, while you are doing the spiritual practice, you will have some experience. that I consider as that bliss that you will keep it in the view, not the yearning for a fruit like a particular things, but with the spiritual practice, whatever the bliss that you are gaining, that is the one you constantly keep in view to discard this, boldly discard the difficulties. That's
Okay, okay. I think Mani Aunty, can you read the next paragraph, please? I think Swami is addressing some of this, if you don't mind. Sorry, is Mani Aunty there? I think we lost Mani Aunty. Mani Aunty is there. Saira Mani Aunty.
Maybe she may not be at present because while she was talking, phone was ringing.
Okay.
So she may be on the phone.
So I will read, my broken Telugu, but I will read a little slowly. Swami is basically saying, ఎన్ని విధములైన అవాంతరములు వచ్చినను, means any obstacles come, రాబోవు ఫలితమును దృష్టియందుచుకొని. So what Swami is telling, whatever the obstacles which come to you, you should wait for the goal. It's rabovu palitamulu. So that is the result which is going to come. That you have to keep in drishti, in your eyesight. You should keep. And avantaramulu lekinchanuka dhairyamuga, means with courage. Whatever the obstacle, with courage, you should sadhana chesugalam. Means whenever you encounter any obstacles, keeping in your eyesight the final goal which you're going to reach, you should proceed with courage.
That's right. That's what I wanted to know.
Okay,
yes.
so
now clear. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. Sometimes in the translation, things can get a bit muddled. That's what I have found. So once you combine both, things mean a little more better clarity.
So, Sairam, and just a quick question though. So there's a difference between wish and the end goal then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, one is worldly and one is
Okay.
spiritual.
So,
But
Sairam,
also spiritually also you can wish, right? So isn't that?
Okay, don't worry about that. Yeah, ignore it. Yeah, that's okay.
Means once the mind gets in, it will give you should get this, you didn't get this, why?
Yeah.
Then you're not making progress. All that will happen. That is the mind playing tricks. But he says, if you have a goal, just march ahead.
March towards the goal.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Sairam, Brother Dasan.
So, Sairam, Swami is saying the spiritual, of course, walking on the edge of the blade is not easy. You have to follow the rules and regulations. In other side, you can have anything, you can do anything. But the spiritual side, when you make mistake, you cannot continue with that one. Your mind doesn't allow, your conscience doesn't allow. So Swami says 3 kind of people are there. One is for the yearning for the fruit. Other one, they give up in the halfway. They continue. Then any difficulties comes, they give up. The third person, whatever the difficulties comes, they never give up. They continue and they reach the goal.
Yeah.
Thank you, Saira.
Thank you.
Sairam. Anyone else would like to share any thoughts, please?
Sure. So basically, the translation that you just gave, it's basically the equivalent of what you said here with what is mentioned in this discourse part in English. Therefore, the aspirant must develop within themselves enthusiasm, faith, activity, and joy, keeping the great big result of effort constantly in view. The aspirant must boldly discard all difficulties and temptations. I guess the translation you gave was the equivalence of this part of the discourse.
Yes, yes. Yes, Yobala.
All right, thanks.
I think the final goal in view. So, but I think once we start wishing for it, then we may become impatient. So we should just keep on marching, just like climbing a huge mountain. I guess whatever you face, the goal is to reach the peak. It's a goal. It is not a wish. It's just steady, one step at a time. I think that kind of explanation Swami is giving. I will open it up for anyone to share any thoughts, please. If not, I think we have more or less reached the end of the time. If there are no comments to be shared by anyone, we will close with Samastaloka and Shanti. Om Samastaloka Sukhino Bhavantu. Samastaloka Sukhino Bhavantu. Samastaloka Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Sai Ram, everyone.
Sai Ram.
Sai Ram. Thank you.
Sir,
Thank you, Sai Ram.
Thank you.
Sai Ram.